My name is Bill Marler. I'm a food safety lawyer based in Seattle. I've been practicing in this area for 35 years, and I'm also the proud publisher of Food Safety News. Organic pastures was first started in the 90s and progressed as to be the largest raw milk producer in California. California is one of the few states that allows retail sales of raw milk. Retail sales of raw milk is kind of unusual. There's a handful of states that allow it, where you can actually buy raw milk in a grocery store. A lot of states restrict raw milk sales to on-farm sales or cattle share sales, primarily because raw milk has been known to be a highly risky product, especially for children. Farmers can't sell raw milk across state lines because of FDA regulations to limit the sale of raw milk. Organic pastures, was in business as organic pastures for over a decade and a half. They changed their name to Raw Milk LLC a few years ago. Hard to know exactly why they did that, but organic pastures had been implicated in many foodborne illness outbreaks, Campylobacter, E. coli, and a number of recalls during that period of time. Really over a dozen recalls related to Listeria, Campylobacter, E. coli, and Salmonella. Also, Raw Milk LLC as a new name was probably likely because organic pastures got into some issues with respect to criminal activity that the FDA and U.S. Attorney's Office were investigating for selling raw milk across state lines into Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. So there was a consent decree that forbade them for not only selling milk across state lines, raw milk across state lines, but also prohibited them from claiming a variety of health benefits of raw milk that were not scientifically proven. So Raw Milk LLC has been sort of the new name in operations, but unfortunately, they've been having a series of both recalls and outbreaks in 2023 and 2024. There was first a Salmonella outbreak in California in 2023 linked to raw cream that sickened about 20 people in Orange County and in San Diego County. Lawsuits have been filed in that case. And then just in the last week, we've heard of an outbreak linked to their raw milk cheese that had been actually sold in retail outlets across the country. But right now there's 4 states that have 10 illnesses. Most of those illnesses are in California. Thus far, we know that the Raw Milk LLC has recalled a variety of cheddar cheeses that were sold nationwide. The illnesses at this point are 10. They're spread out in Colorado, Utah, Texas. Most of the illnesses are in California. There have been 4 hospitalizations, and 1 person has developed HUS, or acute kidney failure. I think one of the real important things that consumers should know is that it's raw milk cheese is quite common, and there's no prohibition about selling raw milk cheese within a state or even across state lines, unlike raw milk. And that's because a lot of raw milk cheese is made safely. And usually what happens is when you do use raw milk to make cheese, the fermentation process pushes out any bad bacteria, but it really requires that the cheese be aged properly and handled properly, so there's no contamination events. So there's a lot to figure out as to why this product still contained a pathogen in it that could sicken or kill someone. So that's obviously what the FDA, CDC, and public health authorities are investigating. It appears that most of the cases that have been reported thus far in this E. coli raw milk cheese outbreak have been in the last months of 2023. It wouldn't surprise me that there's going to be a few more people counted, as other states report, especially given the fact that this product was sold, across the United States. So I expect to see, unfortunately, more illnesses occur. E. coli can be deadly. Fortunately here, it appears that there have been no deaths, but essentially half of the people have been hospitalized, which also tells me that we're missing a few cases. Usually you see, a quarter of E. coli cases are hospitalized, not half or nearly half. The fact that there's one HUS case also indicates to me that there likely are other ill people, because usually you see HUS cases, which are called hemolytic uremic syndrome, which essentially is acute kidney failure. You usually see that in about 5% of the cases in an outbreak. So the fact that we're seeing, basically 10% HUS cases, that tells me that there's probably other more serious cases out there. I think what the public needs to know about hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS, is that this is when the toxin escapes the large intestine and gets into the bloodstream, and that toxin splits the red blood cells, which makes the blood really inability to carry oxygen to parts of the body, and those the split red blood cells that are not carrying enough oxygen clog up, various capillaries in the human body, specifically the massive numbers of small capillaries that are in the kidneys. And that's what causes the acute kidney failure. It does damage those filtering units in the kidneys, and, that damage is irreversible. At least as it relates to this cheese outbreak, is to make sure that you're paying attention to what your cheese is, and there's a great line, when in doubt, throw it out. So if you don't know for sure if the cheese in your refrigerator is or is not raw milk LLC cheddar, I would frankly just throw it out. It's not worth the risk. I think I have some questions about why this farm, under whatever name it's going to be run under, continues to have these problems, both salmonella, E. coli, listeria, and campylobacter. And, these problems keep repeating themselves. And so I think not only does the company itself need to take a hard look at itself and its procedures, but I think public health in California, which is responsible for the oversight and sale of raw milk, they need to take a hard look at, what this farm is doing and whether or not they're capable of producing safe food. The most important thing that consumers really need to consider is, certainly not consuming fluid raw milk. Raw milk, in my view, is just too dangerous, especially for those that are most likely to drink milk, which are little kids. Sometimes adults, you do risky behavior, and I guess adults can do what they want to do, but I think you have to take a hard thinking about the risks to young children. I've represented dozens and dozens of kids who drank raw milk and got sick over the years, including numbers have gotten acute kidney failure. And, the parents are just devastated because they thought that they were, getting something safe for their, kid, something healthful for their kid, and winds up, nearly killing them. So, I think parents, consumers need to take a hard look at whether or not they're going to feed themselves or their families raw milk, especially, the very young, immune compromised or elderly are the most at risk. Raw milk cheese is a pretty common product. and is sold widely, throughout the United States, throughout the world. But it does require that it be aged properly and handled properly to eliminate, risks of bacterial contamination. Raw milk cheese is a product just like any other food product, and when it's contaminated with pathogen, it's a defective product. You shouldn't have pathogenic E. coli in either raw milk, fluid raw milk, or raw milk cheese. It's a defective product when it has that in there. And so the people who are sickened, people who have medical bills, lost wages, and may have future complications, can make a legal claim against Raw Milk LLC, frankly, similar to what we're doing in the Raw Milk LLC salmonella cases from, last summer. So people do have a right to stand up. People do have a right to discover, why this outbreak happened and what could be done to prevent it in the future.